Greetings, dear ones. Greetings, all dear ones. You are so vibrant this day. It is magic for us to watch you from this perspective and see some of the energetic changes that take place with all of you. The magic has begun on planet Earth, and all of you are shifting in a very magical way. So this day, since it has come up several times during the course of today's progression, we wish to speak about music. Oh, that's an interesting process. What part does that play in your life? Well, in most places, people consider music to be somewhat on the background, somewhat of the entertainment area, which it has been. Rightfully so. It is where you have placed it in your timeline. But the interesting part is music is so much more than that. And many of you consider yourself to be musical, and some of you don't. Some of you say, I can't carry a note, so therefore I will enjoy the music from a distance, but I will not participate to try and create it. Well, have you ever considered that if you are tone deaf, if you have no capabilities to carry a note at all in this lifetime, that perhaps you've already mastered what you needed to master in the way of music? And here's an interesting part about music that we will share with all of you. Music is cumulative between lifetimes. So, therefore, if you work with whatever it is you work with, and there's no right or wrong about any of it, the reality is, if you pick up an instrument and it fits your spirit in the body, then you have a match and you have an expression to create the vibration from home. Now, many of you are creating music when you speak. And, of course, you're not aware of it. You think, oh, well, I don't do that because I'm tone deaf, so therefore I can't, can't carry a note. So, obviously, I'm not going to sing. But the truth is, all of you have rhythms deep within you that are starting to change. And that is opening the capabilities for humanity to see itself in a totally different way. The magic has begun. Now, imagine in ancient days, far beyond your recorded history, but as early humans, what you would even call cavemen, were making sounds. Well, obviously, in the beginning, a couple of bones would serve rather well for rhythm types of instruments, and in reality, you learn to communicate through that form of rhythm and have used it in several different cultures as you have evolved humanity. But then you started working with the notes, and you became aware that your own voice had a range and that you could find instruments or make instruments that could replicate at least a tiny bit the energy from home and the music that every one of you hears all the time from home. That is the beautiful part. And all you are doing is replicating, or trying to replicate as close as you can, that inner connection, that inner music, if you will, from home. So there they are, starting to discover the music within them and expressing it. But of course, it didn't exactly sound good now, did it? In fact, it's when two or more of them came together that they had to create a harmony. This is actually the beginning, this harmonic process of harmonizing your music with other beings, began the beginning of the scales. For dear ones, the scales did not exist before you tried to come together. That was the reason that scales in music were made in the first place, so that you would all be playing on the same scale and therefore able to at least hit harmonics once in a while. Well, that has evolved into all the music that you hear in different ways. We tell you this because on your planet, much of your music is about to shift. You are evolving very rapidly as humans, as spiritual beings pretending to play this game of humanity. And as you evolve, your likes and dislikes around you will also start to change pretty rapidly. It is a very beautiful process to watch. We will share some of this with you as we go forward, even further into it. But you will start to hear things that right now may sound a bit dissonant. They may sound, especially having to do with rhythm. If you work with a song that has 4 beats and then starts another rhythm with 4 beats and then suddenly goes to 5, it captures your attention in a way that is almost a distraction. You don't think of it as music, you think of it as something wrong. Well, that will change down the road as you will see a variety of rhythms which will start to become the norm. And not only the rhythms, but your music in general will shift, and eventually your scales will start to find a new base. Well, the scales are the very difficult part. And now that you have the technology to do this, you can take your highest note that you can create and your lowest note that you can create and divide them perfectly equally into segments. And if you play that, it will sound terrible. Why? Why does it sound terrible if you divide everything into perfect segments? Well, it doesn't sound terrible, dear ones, but it doesn't have the full richness of the harmony of the overtones of one instrument adding to the overtones and the final piece of another and blending together. In order to do that, your scales have to be imperfect. Well, look at your piano keyboard. You'll see there's a missing note, at least one. You'll see there's other places where the perfection of the scales had to be brought into imperfection so that your human ears could pick it up and make it sound similar to the energy and the light that you hear all the time from the music from home. So these are very fascinating for many of you. And those of you who have considered yourself in this lifetime to be non-musical, we ask you to reconsider that. Not necessarily that you're going to start a recording career or that you're going to step out on the road with your band, but understand that even your voice, the rhythm and the tone of your voice, emulates that music you hear deep inside. And it helps to make the connections with everyone around you. Now, the other part about it is cumulative over many lifetimes. Now, if you work very hard and you study as a musician, and you work very hard and suddenly you die, you leave that lifetime. Well, when you come back in, you still have to train your body. You still have to train your fingers where things are, but the rest of it comes very quickly. And in general, you basically pick up where you left off in the last lifetime. So music and your expression of music, and we find it interesting because you have a word for that here. You call it music. At home, we don't even identify it because it is such a part of our everyday lives. It is such a part of each of us. So we don't even have a word to identify it as separate from ourselves. That true will also happen here. Now, you have found that there are many changes going on with your technologies coming in. You have found new distribution systems and capabilities for music. As such, because of it, and because of the belief that everything on your internet must be free, many of your musicians are starving on planet Earth right now. And some of them simply cannot afford to be in the music business because there is very difficult to get any return on that. This is actually an opening of the change of the way your society starts to see things. And it is very fascinating because in the beginning, you opened up your internet. And in the beginning, everything on your internet was free. But is it free really? Is it not frustrating when you download a simple thing that says download and you end up with a virus on your computer from that download? It happens all the time, dear ones. So nothing is really free, even on the internet, because there is a reason they are doing it. They're either advertising something or downloading something you particularly don't want on your computer. This is a challenge that all of humanity is going through as you are redefining music's place in your life. Currently, you have many distribution systems, and it is very easy to tap into a wide variety of music. Now that you are accustomed to receiving that and awakening that energy deep within you, you will also find ways of redistributing it and find ways of anchoring that light. There is nothing sadder for us to see than a musician who finally records their work and cannot get it out, or ends up with a whole bunch of them in their garage because they thought everybody would buy it and no one has truly bought it. Your changes of your way of thinking about music are starting to shift. It is beautiful for us to watch, and yet somewhat of a challenge for many of you, especially those that make your living out of music. But the beautiful part about it is so integrated into every being, that every being has music that will remind them of home. And therefore, to them, will be wonderful. They will light up when they hear it. You can change your internal energy simply by listening to music. That is magical. And with the wide variety of music which will be available in short time, well, now you have sent out the call. You have sent out the distributions are quite different now. Because in the beginning, if you had someone who finally got to the point where they recorded their album, they'd have to hire a publicist. They'd have to have a contract with a recording company. And now they simply put it up on the internet. How magical. You have ways of healing each other with your music. Now, what of those who consider yourself to be tone deaf? Well, we love that. That's magical. It simply means that you are not going to be able to harmonize in the same way that other people do. But it doesn't mean you don't have an ear for music. And it doesn't mean that you don't have that inner core of music pulsing through you from home all the time. Now, who creates the music at home? Well, that's the interesting part. No one. It is part of the overall structure of the collective and created in that way, the same way that many of you will. Now, you have gone through the process of working alone. You have worked with your scales, and you have you have found the imperfections, the perfect imperfections in your scales. And you are now even playing with them, dividing them up equally in the solfeggio scales and many of the master number scales that are also available. You will start playing in new ways, and we will cheer you on. When you hear these things that at first sound dissonant, open your heart and simply take it in. And it's not that you must like every form of music. Music is as personalized as you are. So find that peace that helps you awaken from the dream, that piece of music or that flavor of music that can rejuvenate you and remind your spirit constantly of that flow of beautiful music coming from home. All of you are musicians. You would not be here if you were not. And all of you have had incarnations directly associated with the expression of music on planet Earth. Find it now. Love that and remember home. That is the beauty that can be shared by all of you at this point. It is with the greatest of honor that we greet you in these ways and give you reminders, not to tell you where to look, but to help you remember what you already know. The beauty within each of you has begun to grow. It is magical for us to watch. We ask you to treat each other with respect, nurture one another every chance you get, and play well together. You are more beautiful than you imagine. A spavo, dear ones.